Welcome back to MMA Unleashed, where fight fans get their real stories, raw drama, and all the latest news from the octagon and beyond. Today we have a ton of big stories to break down. Dana White is reportedly under serious pressure behind the scenes to release a fighter, and the situation has the MMA world buzzing. Multiple insiders are hinting that tensions inside the UFC front office are higher than usual after a string of controversial moments. While Dana has built a reputation for standing firm and protecting his roster, this particular case is making waves because it involves a fighter who has been difficult to manage, constantly stirring headlines outside the cage, and now the executives and broadcast partners are starting to push for action. People close to the UFC say the issue isn't just one incident. It's a combination of repeated weight cut problems, social media controversies, and disagreements over fight negotiations. Normally, Dana is known for saying, "This is the fight business, not the nice guy business." But when sponsors and partners start voicing concerns, even the most powerful promoter in combat sports has to consider his options. This comes at a time when the UFC schedule is already under heavy pressure, with big cards needing headliners. One of the biggest shocks of the week was the news that an upcoming fight has been completely called off. A fight that fans were excited to see, one that looked locked in, is now officially off the table. According to reports, a key athlete suffered a training setback, and the replacement options simply didn't come together in time. This sudden cancellation has ripple effects on the division rankings, future matchmaking, and pay-per-view plans. Fighters who were preparing to use that bout as a stepping stone now have to wait, and it raises serious questions about how quickly the UFC can pivot in a stacked but fragile schedule. In the middle of all this drama, we now have the huge development of Islam Makhachev being linked to a potential fight with Jack Della Maddalena, better known as JDM. This is a matchup nobody had on their bingo card just a few months ago. Islam is the reigning lightweight champion, a dominant grappler with an incredible winning streak, and JDM is one of the hottest rising stars in the welterweight division. The idea of these two meeting is electrifying because it's a true clash of styles. Islam's suffocating wrestling and top control would be tested against JDM's crisp boxing, dangerous bodywork, and underrated ground defense. The UFC hasn't officially announced anything, but insiders claim preliminary talks are happening. JDM has been looking for a breakout fight that catapults him into superstar status, and facing someone like Islam, even in a catchweight or a cross-division showdown, would do exactly that. For Islam, it's a chance to silence critics who say he's only dominant at lightweight and to prove his skills can translate against bigger, stronger opponents. Fans are already debating the key factors. Could Islam's strength and grappling neutralize JDM's precise striking? Would JDM's size and punching power force Islam to fight more cautiously than usual? And if the fight happens at a different weight, how will that affect both athletes' performance and cardio? Meanwhile, Joe Rogan has been vocal about all these moving pieces. On his podcast, Rogan broke down the Makhachev versus JDM rumors with his usual mix of excitement and technical insight. He highlighted JDM's composure in striking exchanges and pointed out that Islam has shown small openings in his stand-up game when pressured. Rogan also talked about the bigger picture for the UFC, saying that Dana White thrives on creating unpredictable matchups that capture public attention. He noted that even though purists might prefer Islam to stay in his division and defend the belt, fights like this generate massive buzz and pull in casual fans who might not otherwise tune in. Rogan also addressed the fighter release rumors, reminding listeners that Dana White has always balanced business realities with loyalty to his athletes. He brought up past situations where the UFC stood by fighters through controversy, but eventually had to make tough calls when the brand was at stake. According to Rogan, this latest case might be one of those rare times when the outside pressure is too strong to ignore. Dana White is facing serious pressure to release a UFC fighter after a situation that has blown up across the MMA community. A major UFC fight that fans have been waiting for has been called off at the last moment. On top of that, there are new rumors about a possible matchup between Islam Makhachev and Jack Della Maddalena, a fight that would shake up two divisions if it actually happened. And if that wasn't enough, Joe Rogan has jumped into the conversation with his own thoughts, which always get people talking. We're going to go through everything step by step, look at the background, the possible outcomes, and what all of this could mean for the UFC over the next few months. Grab a drink, settle in, and let's get started. Let's start with the headline that has the MMA world buzzing. Dana White, the president of the UFC, is under heavy pressure to release a fighter from the roster. The details of the situation are still developing, but here's what we know so far. This fighter has been surrounded by controversy, whether it's issues outside the cage, repeated failed weight cuts, or behavior that the UFC can't ignore anymore. Fans are calling for action on social media. Reporters are asking tough questions at press conferences. Other fighters are starting to share their opinions, some of them even saying the UFC needs to make an example. Dana White is known for being a no-nonsense promoter. He doesn't like to be pushed around by public opinion. In the past, he has cut fighters for legal trouble or for not living up to professional standards. At the same time, Dana also knows when a fighter brings in big numbers and draws huge crowds. He often tries to balance the business side with the need to protect the UFC brand. Think back to previous moments when Dana had to make tough calls. There have been fighters who got released after multiple failed weight cuts. Others were let go after legal issues or serious violations. Each case was different. Some fighters were given second chances, others were removed immediately. The question here is whether Dana will cave to the current pressure or hold his ground. Will he send a message by making an example of this fighter, or will he wait until more information comes out? This situation is tricky because whatever Dana decides will set a precedent. If he releases the fighter now, it shows that public pressure can sway the UFC. If he doesn't, people may accuse him of protecting the brand over doing what's right. As of now, the UFC hasn't made a final statement, but the pressure is real, and it's growing every day. Next up, a fight that was supposed to be a highlight of the upcoming card has officially been called off. This matchup had been hyped for weeks, with both fighters posting training clips and fans debating who would win. And now, suddenly it's gone. The reason? According to early reports, says it could be an injury during training, medical clearance issues, or even problems with contract negotiations. Whatever the cause, the result is the same. The fight is not happening, and the UFC is scrambling to figure out the next step. Fans are frustrated, and understandably so. Tickets were sold, travel plans were made, and now the bout everyone wanted to see has disappeared. Fighters from the same division are also reacting. Some are offering to step in on short notice. Others are using the cancellation to push for their own title opportunities. This isn't the first time a big UFC fight has fallen apart. We can all remember Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Tony Ferguson being canceled multiple times, or John Jones having to pull out of a fight week at the last minute. The UFC has always managed to adapt, but each time it happens, it creates a ripple effect through the rankings and title picture. The question now is whether the UFC will find a replacement fight, delay the matchup until a future card, or simply move on. Each option has pros and cons, and fans will be watching closely to see how Dana and the matchmakers handle it. Now let's dive into a rumor that has shocked a lot of MMA fans. The idea of Islam Makhachev facing Jack Della Maddalena. Islam is the reigning lightweight champion, a dominant wrestler with elite grappling and a growing striking game. Jack Della Maddalena is one of the most dangerous rising stars at welterweight, known for his precise boxing and knockout power. At first glance, this matchup sounds almost impossible. Islam rules the lightweight division at 155 pounds. Jack fights at 170 pounds. For this fight to happen, either Islam would have to move up to welterweight or Jack would have to cut down to lightweight, which would be a huge challenge for both. But in today's UFC, super fights are always a possibility. We've seen champions move up or down to chase legacy fights and bigger paydays. Islam might want to prove himself against bigger opponents. Jack might see an opportunity to shock the world and fast-track his career. Stylistically, this fight would be fascinating. Islam's wrestling and top control could neutralize Jack's striking, but Jack's power and precision could cause serious problems if the fight stays on the feet. Fans are already debating who would have the advantage in a 5-round war. Of course, there are other contenders in both divisions. Islam still has potential matchups with Charles Oliveira, Arman Tsarukyan, and others. Jack is climbing the welterweight rankings with big names like Leon Edwards, Bilal Muhammad, and Shavkat Rakhmonov ahead of him. The UFC would have to decide whether a crossover fight makes sense right now, or if it's better to let each fighter handle business in their own division first. Even if this fight never happens, the fact that people are talking about it shows how big Islam and Jack have become. Fans want to see the best fight the best, no matter the weight class. Whenever there's major drama in the UFC, you can bet Joe Rogan will have an opinion. On his podcast, Rogan discussed the fighter release pressure, the fight cancellation, and even the possibility of Islam versus Jack. As always, he spoke his mind and got people talking. Rogan pointed out the risks Dana White faces when public pressure starts to influence decisions. He also shared his thoughts on Islam's dominance, saying that Islam might already be one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world. Regarding Jack Della Maddalena, Rogan praised his striking skills and called him one of the most exciting welterweights to watch. When Rogan talks, fans listen. His podcast reaches millions, and his takes often spread quickly across social media. Sometimes fighters respond directly to what Rogan says. Sometimes Dana White even comments when Rogan's opinions become a hot topic. This is part of what makes MMA unique. A commentator can shape the conversation in real time and put extra pressure on the UFC to act or respond. So here's where things stand. Dana White is facing mounting pressure to release a fighter. A high-profile UFC fight has been called off, leaving fans disappointed and matchmakers scrambling. There's a buzz around a potential super fight between Islam Makhachev and Jack Della Maddalena. And Joe Rogan's latest comments have added even more fuel to the fire. What happens next is anyone's guess. Will Dana White make a bold move and release the fighter in question? Will the canceled fight be rescheduled or replaced? Could Islam versus Jack actually become a reality in the next year? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Should the UFC listen to public pressure when making roster decisions? Do you think Islam should move up for a super fight? And which recent fight cancellation hurt you the most as a fan? Thanks for watching. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of our UFC updates. There's a lot more to come, and we'll keep you posted as these stories continue to unfold.